Hello, and how is everybody doing this fine day? We are here with a special announcement, as I've posted on social media, that there's kind of something fun going on right now, especially with regards to the this month's special animation challenge, or the Anim challenge this month of May. As most of you probably know, there is a collaboration with Riot Games this time around, where we're actually even getting a chance to look at some production rigs for League of Legends, and the challenge itself is character introductions. So this was already pretty exciting, this challenge, so what's kind of interesting is there's a bunch of these. This is why I really like this show, and that's why I really like this initiative, this Agora community. We are putting ourselves out there. We're trying to connect people, and by doing so, we find ourselves connecting with people that are like-minded, that like to support the community. And I've already met a number of people that I was respecting from afar, and their contributions to their own communities. And honestly, it's a very rewarding experience getting to sit in this chair right here, because I get to have these kind of really cool conversations every week. One of those kind of conversations was born, interestingly enough, on Twitter, where there was myself and another individual who will remain nameless for a couple moments. We were just there was these similar intersections that were happening on Twitter, because we were obviously following each other's initiatives. And then led to a conversation. That conversation led to how can we cross the streams and collaborate a little bit more. And then out of the blue, this challenge happened, and it was boom. And then there was, this sudden epiphany that I can't take credit for, but this wonderful man can. So this wonderful man's name is Brad Clark. You may know him from such shows as Rigging Dojo, his website. There's a lot of amazing information packed on that site. I discovered it quite a while ago now. Lots of stuff on Motion Builder. There's stuff on rigging. Obviously, with a name like Rigging Dojo, you better know a thing or two about rigging. He's got lots of experience, so we're going to get to know him today. He's going to be on the show. And then what's interesting is, yet again, even just now, this collaboration led to another collaboration he was having with these other very talented individuals. And so it just cascades into this very interesting web of good intentions and talent. And so I'm going to start that. I'm going to leave it at that, kind of set the stage. I'm going to bring these wonderful people in, and we're going to have a little chat. And then we're going to have this really cool announcement that it will all lead up to by the end of this little scenario. So let's bring in Brad. Brad
hey,
Clark, everybody. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for being on the show. So hopefully I got all the details right. But
yeah.
Why don't we, I don't know, I kind of want to give you a moment to talk a little bit about yourself, your experience, what are you even doing with yourself? You seem to be everywhere. You seem to, you seem like you strike me as the kind of guy who wears a special phone that people call when they're in desperate need of production help on a rig or whatever it might be. And then also, talk a little bit about Rigging Dojo. What's the mission? How's it been going? What's going on?
Yeah, so I don't have a special phone, but the Twitter DMs through Rigging Dojo and through
that's it. Discord
and everywhere else. 10 years ago, 16 years ago, I was starting a family and kind of done with production, and I went to full-time stay-at-home dad, just being a parent, and everyone kept reaching out to me for help. And a few of my friends and I were also kind of, I've been in education for a long time, but training teams and helping with early software development through the studios, and so I just kind of migrated that to taking care of my kids and also just answering people's questions.
Right.
And then at a certain point, you can only answer the same question over and over again so many times, and then realize that, like, hey, this is still a lacking area of education.
Exactly.
So, and not being able to find existing, like, the pool of character technical artists is really tiny, and the ones that are really good are squirreled away somewhere in the world that are too busy, and then everyone else is just fighting over the ones that are available, and we wanted to fix that. So I think having a central place for educating a community of people that are interested in rigging characters and pushing the technology, and also just doing good work and connecting around that, much like Agora. But we just also found that the people were doing all of the tutorials and coming out of schools and doing all of the stuff that seemed like they were doing the right thing and still not knowing how to apply it, right? You can only watch so many baking shows and follow so many recipes, but if you don't understand the chemistry of baking, or you don't understand the raw materials and why they combine, then you're never going to grow.
I totally agree, especially with rigging. Like, these underlying concepts are the most important. Is the why does this work? And, like, because otherwise you're just you do need that, because every character's got its own special needs to be accounted for. So if you don't know, you can't just follow literally a step-by-step sort of tutorial every time you want to rig something.
And you do need those as an introduction, but every production, not even just every character, but every studio, every animator requirement, every project requirement, from game engine to final render, has a different requirement or a legacy pipeline or whatever. So you need the concepts, but you also need the, like, technical understanding of the software and how it works and what so you can't just step away and rely on, like, well, if I'm animating, I just need a graph editor and know where the transform controls are. If you're rigging, you need to know, like, everything.
It's true.
And right, and the principles apply across software, obviously, and that's what we'll talk about. But you have to have a certain tenacity to just push through everything trying to break on you all the time. Right. That is a mental toughness that all the TDs share.
That's so true. It's so true. If you take a good long look at your TD, if you're at a studio, like, just give them, like, just maybe, I don't know, like, just throw them some love, because they got a lot on their shoulders. They are clearly, there's things that they're fixing that you don't even know. And that's the whole point. It's sad. Just like an IT person, right? It's like, they're unfortunately the one that gets called when things break. But like, if they weren't, and you might think, like, how come this isn't running properly? It's like, well, actually,
you see all the other stuff.
That's it. The number of fires that were put out before they even hit the production floor, you would not even believe. So these people are unsung heroes in many ways. It's funny. I'd be remiss to not mention that the beginning of your Genesis story, this idea that you were, this professional in the trenches being shot at, and then you're like, you know what, I just want to focus on my kids for a while. God forbid. And then they pulled you back in. And it's sort of, it all kind of felt like the beginning of Commando, like, where you're like living as a recluse in the forest, and
I'm done. I'm out. And they're like, no,
chopper shows up. They're like,
exactly.
You got to come back. You got to get back.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. And everyone kept emailing, like, what do we have to do to hire you? I'm like, I don't know. Wait until my kids in college, I guess. Is that like, what's your timeline? So,
that's funny. That's so funny.
That's how it went.
Fun fact, I had no idea, and I own this book, and I had no idea it was you. It's this emotion builder book. It was back in the day. This is a while ago now. Like, when was that published?
That was like 2004. I don't know how it was old.
It was a while ago. It was when I was gathering a lot of information on the topic, because
and that
motion builder it's funny that you seem to be this guy.
Jason Parks and Chad and I, we worked on that for SIGGRAPH, because what's funny about that is we agreed to do a presentation, and in doing so, much like this project, it immediately exposed all of the problems we were all having. And it fixed a bunch of stuff for, like, Motion Builder 7.5, I think, right? Like, Jason was coding stuff, and Autodesk was like, oh, we can fix that for you for SIGGRAPH. It was, that when they fix things for Motion Builder. They fixed a bunch of stuff from us doing that to the class. So it was really rewarding, both to share the information, but also just to drive the product in
for sure.
From sharing. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's what's interesting is because I was this is a perfect segue to talk about this. It's like your expertise started in rigging, right? And that's where you start. Then the website's called the Rigging Dojo.
I wanted to be an animator, and then you know how it was in 2000. Like if you want to animate something, it's you have to rig, and then if someone sees you do that, and they go, give him the rigging.
That's it.
And then pigeonhole.
You're now, that's it. You're no longer, Brad the animator. You're now suddenly Brad the rigger. I think that's a journey that a lot of people find themselves on.
Absolutely.
It's like, and I think there's a little bit of also there's probably I don't know what about you, but some people find themselves like they like it, like they really love the technical stuff. They like they like the engineering of it. And so it's a match made in heaven. People want them to do it. They like doing it. So boom. And other people, they kind of sometimes get stuck doing it. They might rather be doing other things. But I mean, I find it interesting that because rigging is an area in the industry that could use a lot more education. And it's one of those areas that I'm always pushing animators towards. I'm always saying, look, I think that it seems crazy to me that, animators who get into this industry and they never really take the time to really understand at least the basic concepts. Like, it's sort of like, I always make the analogy of a car. It's funny, you already made a car analogy, but I'll make another one. It's like, if you're driving a car around and you depend on that to get to your job, it seems weird to me that you don't understand the basics, like how to deal with a flat tire, how to I back in the day, I might've said like, what's a carburetor? But like, most people don't even know what the hell that is anymore. But like the idea
you look at
is
cars, they don't even have spare tires anymore, right? So, it's not even,
so maybe not even that.
But I always talk about like, you expect an artist, a photographer, right? A great photographer
that's a better analogy,
absolutely knows their camera. They understand the physics of light. They understand the compositional art side, but they also have to understand how to drive the camera to get what they want. And not end up with a 1,000 shots of something that is unusable. So they have to understand their camera. An animator needs to understand their rig, but also the understanding of the rig comes with a little bit of technical baggage, because you have to control it, right? The rig is responsible for what you see animated.
Absolutely. And that's it. That's my point. It's like, it seems weird that some animators tend to be like standoffish about like understanding more about the rigs. I'm not expecting animators to become professional riggers, but at least get to the point where you understand the basics on how rigs are essentially made.
And the same way goes for animators, right? Like, I mean, for riggers, understanding how the animators are expecting to use it to an extent, right? There's a fine balance between catering to their whims and also just forcing them to learn a little bit. So there's some tough love that has to come in.
It's true, but it is. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that animators on the animation side of the equation are often sometimes frustrated by rigs that are made that don't feel like the comment of like, has this person ever even animated before? Like, why would that control even make any sense? It's like there needs to be this kind of meet in the middle on both sides of the equation, because both sides are so important. It's like it would be weird to design a race car if you don't know how to drive. That would be weird, because like ergonomics.
Well, and the feedback of the driver, right? Like that is a teamwork, right? So the animators driving the rig, and the riggers are the pit crew, and they have to collaborate to make it better. And if they're both just fighting or just wanting one thing over the other, then you're not going to grow as an artist in either direction. So.
Exactly.
Which is why it's nice that the other guys we have are a little bit of both, right?
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to be bringing them in 1 second. I just wanted to talk one last thing about, because I'm kind of making my way over there, meandering a little bit. But so what's funny is that rigging was sort of clearly one of the focuses of that website, but then suddenly you seem to be collecting these other peripheral things. One of those things was Motion Builder, yet another unloved piece of software that like people are starving for information on. Like it's literally a barren wasteland out there on the internet looking for Motion Builder stuff. Like, where do you find it? And Rigging Dojo is one of the things that always pops up as a haven and like an actual repository for some information in that area, right?
Yeah, and that was hand in hand with the path of me skewing more towards tech, because motion capture is as much a technical art as it is the animation tool. And early on, you had to have mastery over the tools or the data would just crush you, right? You couldn't get through the work without it. And so I came through Acclaim in the old days when we were rebuilding SGIs and running Nuance that like that only exists at Weta, right? And in Lightstorm and all these places that like you'd never know it. And then we needed to transition and Filmbox 2.5 beta was introduced to us, and in about 6 months we went, this isn't equivalent. This tool does not work at all compared to what we have. And so then I started a 5-year journey to get it to a point where we could actually use it. And working on betas and alphas and flying to Montreal. And so then when I started rigging Dojo, I'm like, well, half of rigging is being able to share information with other software and to be pipeline friendly. And also the understanding of like what a mocap pipeline requires. And how to rig for motion capture was such an unknown thing in the Maya community. And in Max it was there, but it was like, well, you're going to use biped, right? The default was you're going to use biped if you're using mocap. Maya had really nothing in existence to work on capture data. They didn't have animation layers. It was just like good luck. And Motion Builder was the thing, or Filmbox. And then Filmbox, and then I worked a long time with Autodesk to get the animation layers and time editor in and to make Maya move it towards being usable for motion capture. And it still has a ways to go.
It does. It really does. But I mean, it is nice to see that sort of happen over time. And it's interesting this idea that like you are one of the many people that are in a position to be able to kind of push that. Like I think that we are benefiting as a community for a lot of the sort of the trials and tribulations that you've had behind the scenes, working with some of these companies and sort of being kind of a go-to consultant on these matters. So then
now I'm pushing towards Blender the same way.
Well, you're stealing my thunder. Exactly. So yet again, Brad out of the shadows shows up, and this is actually where we intersected for the first time on Twitter, was because of Blender, because he had just put together a presentation for Anim Exchange, Animx, I guess, which it's so cleverly this presentation is called the Rosetta Stone for Blender, and the idea is it's sort of a quick condensed guide on hey, you my user, you want to know how to use Blender? Well, here, let me translate all that information over for you. So if you haven't seen that, you should definitely check that out. It's online. It's free. Compliments of the Anim Exchange, which is another great organization that's always getting people connected and putting information out there. So go check that out. So this is where Brad and I's journey started to connect, and it was sort of like we started to discover. He's like, I discovered this thing and I posted on it, and then he must have saw me tag it. Next, we're like best friends forever, just because obviously we were drinking each other's Kool-Aid, and then we started talking.
Shared pain.
That's it. Exactly. I think there's a good commiseration that we can do together. But this led me to understand that there was even some Blender in his world, which yet another area that needs a little bit of love. I mean, it's got a really strong community.
It does. Not in animation.
Not in animation, exactly. So I think that it's funny because the number of people that I know that are animators and just in general people that want to dive into Blender is quite big. There's a growing momentum and inertia that's building on this thing, but it requires people to be able to like make it easy for people. You know what I mean? Like it is harder for professionals. That's why you still don't see a lot of this happening professionally. There's a lot of professionals that are going, yep, I think Blender's a thing. Do you know how to use it? Nope. I have no idea. I have no time. It's like,
that's exactly what happens with the motion builder. They sit on it. They have to use it for something. They're shown in production, hit these buttons, do it. And then that's the extent of their knowledge. And that's why we started pushing the education side, because it was like, well, you can save like 6 hours of your day if you know these 5 buttons and this approach. You can spend, 6 hours watching my import a file. Like your choice. How much time do you want to spend? Spend at home. Go see your kids or watch files import. I think I'll pick the kids.
Yeah, exactly. So this led to, of course, some back and forth, and then this brings us to today, where we are now in a situation where this Riot thing happened. I knew that Brad was working on all this cool, sort of like introduction to Blender like things, and then boom, out of nowhere, Brad's like, "Hey," he tweets, "I see this cool challenge. If anybody wants me to maybe prepare a couple Blender rigs, I think I can maybe make that happen." And I was like all over that. I was like, "Pardon?" And because one of the number one things we get asked on a regular basis, and I didn't mean, when I say regularly, I mean there is very rarely a day at Agora Community we do not get an email from somebody going, "Can we please do you have that rig?" Because we have some really good rigs in our little asset library. So if you're new here, then do please swing by Agora.Community. And I think it's called /assets, I believe is the direct link to it. And that's got a whole library of assets that are free to download and use. I believe a lot of them you can't really use professionally, but when you want to use them for your demo reels or your own learning purposes, then by all means, go ahead and do that. So I was like, yes, how do we make that happen? So that brings us to our two new guests I'm going to bring in right now. Brad, you can do the Genesis story there, because he's got his own intersectional story with these two geniuses. I will let you handle that, because I don't have I didn't get my proper history or my full history lesson on this. So let me bring in Eduardo and Santiago, who are both sort of the creatives behind a website called Dipsloom. I will link that in chat in a moment, but I'm going to bring them in and let them chat while I write that down. One sec. And here they are. We have Eduardo and we have Santiago. So welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being on the show. So how did this, I don't know, how did that happen? How did you guys connect? How did that all start? I'll let you guys fill everybody in.
Start? Yeah. So basically we're brothers. So I'm the small brother, Santiago, and he's my brother, Eduardo. Basically we wanted to make games, and we love making and playing games. I'm a Unity developer, and Eduardo is the animator. And what we wanted to do is make his life easier for animating. So we decided to make a tool for Blender to basically let you rig things as fast as possible for a animator. Since I'm not an animator, I didn't really know what he needed to make his rigs. And so the power that we're doing, the tool that we're making, is basically allowing the animator to rig his character on the fly, which is where the name comes from, rig on the fly, which is the tool that we created, which is free on GitHub. And that's how we started the Dipsloom.
I have a quick question, and I think Brad is the one that sort of kind of alluded to this when I started talking to him about this initiative, and I do believe that a lot of the philosophy that goes into this the way this tool is built is very heavily borrowed from the very genius philosophy of Richard Lico, and I think that that's an important point to make, because I know that Richard Lico has many fans in chat. I'm a gigantic, enormous fan of Richard Lico. I think the way his brain works, we need more Richard Licos in this world. Let's put it that way. The way he thinks about the way that just movement and just animation in general, it's sort of like I don't know why, but he was gifted with the vision of seeing the matrix that is animation. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way he sees it. It's like, it's not like you don't animate. For him, it's not about, oh, you move this controller, you set a key. It's like, it's just motion, man. Let it go. Just work with it. It's like, it's meant to be massaged. It's meant to, like, don't get stressed about having keys everywhere. I'll never forget the day that he and I sat down, because he had never used Motion Builder, and I'm like, when I got a good taste of what his philosophy was like, I'm like, man, have you ever used Motion Builder before? And he's like, actually, for the longest time, I've been wanting to try it. And I sat him down, and I'm like, you need to see this, because this is a commercial tool that's been around for a while that really does think like you in many, many ways. It's amazing they didn't ever use it. Like, go ahead, Brad. Go ahead.
I was just going to say there's so many crossovers between his workflow and Motion Builder, and why, like, when I started bringing more concepts for Motion Builder into Maya for rigging, and ultimately when I saw, Richard's stuff show up in this little Blender tool, I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, this is like having Motion Builder control rig in Blender, plus all of the extra tools ready to go. So it was just really exciting. And then Richard and I finally had a chance to talk, much like you and I. We had never crossed paths until Raf Ansem and Richard and I did our talk, the other talk for AnimX, which was like, we don't need interpolation, like understanding how to rig and animate with these type of principles and tools. So
Yep.
it's
That's
awesome. There's so many crossovers.
Is so many crossovers, and I mean, this, to be specific here, and I'm not, maybe not everyone here has used Motion Builder before, but Motion Builder, one of the things, because I train Motion Builder, I have a course at iAnimate that it's an intro to Motion Builder, and one of the main things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be that Rosetta Stone for animators into motion capture. Motion capture has this bad reputation because, and I don't want to turn this into a motion capture conversation, but the basic idea is it takes time for animators to think about movement differently. They have to let go of these precious keyframes that they're trying to keep as these pristine. They don't want, this idea of that don't plotting, like, wait, you're gonna bake what are you gonna know? That you need to let go of that when you're dealing with Motion Builder, because you start right from day one. Typically, assuming that you work with motion capture data, you're gonna have keys on every frame. So that just sort of like, that boat sailed day one. You need to like just let go of that. And what's interesting is once you do, you start to realize, hey, like, what's the difference between keyframe and motion capture data? There's nothing. It all depends on where it came from, but it's still just a bunch of friggin' F curves. That's all it really is. And the density of those F curves are determined based on your comfort level with density of F curves. And so once you start getting over that hump, why not just leverage that? So what I love is now we got Eduardo, who comes in, swoops into this scene on Blender and is like, okay, like, this is such a great idea. Why don't we apply this kind of philosophy to Blender? Because Blender, obviously being new, it's been around for a long time, but it's garnering a lot of very recent interest for a variety of reasons. I think that one of those reasons is that it's free, and that it just took time. It is starting to there's a bubble forming right now, and so if there was ever a time. Right. Like, if there was ever a time to be like, okay, you've been talking about learning Blender for a while. It's now. Let's just do it. And I think that what we have right here, this whole group, okay, this whole stream is essentially that moment for everybody in chat, and hopefully for others, because these wonderful people have come together in some sort of universe-like alignment to provide a silver platter opportunity for you. Because what has happened is we got Eduardo's tool, we've got Brad Clark and his vast experience and his willingness to take the time to prepare a few of the rigs that were offered from Riot into Blender versions. So that is going to be available today. It actually already is. I'll put the link in chat in a moment, but you'll just have to head over to the Rigging Dojo site. There is a direct link to the rigs. There's a page. There's a couple disclaimers though. I want to make sure that everyone understands. So what Brad needed to do, these are like production rigs, and these are like, League of Legends has been in production for quite some time. So what Brad needed to do is he had to kind of engineer, he had to take it and then use this tool and prepare these 3 rigs. It is important to note that there is also a video link I think it's a Vimeo link, where Brad has also gone and kind of done a bit of a tutorial for you, so you know how to use this tool that Eduardo has created. Essentially, it can be very customized. And because if you know what I mean, when I say Richard Lico, right away, you should be like, oh, okay, I already get it. So it's not going to be a traditional rig, not in the traditional sense. It is, the tools are there to like rigging on the fly, I believe is the word that the phrase that Eduardo had used. That is very much totally the approach that the Richard Licos takes to it. It's like, really, it's less of a rig and more of like a set of scripts almost that allow you to kind of do what you need to do when you need to do. You're not locked into this rig that only does these things and you should only do them in this one order. It's a little bit different. So you do need to RTFM. You're going to have to read the manual. Because
it's all GIFs.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a lot like Animbot in the sense that there's a lot of really great feedback and like kind of helpfulness there. But the point is, don't just try to grab these and just run with it. This is you're gonna have to probably prepare yourself a little bit and kind of read a little bit of or maybe
I will say I did default the feet to IK mode so that if someone opens the rig, they can move the hips around and it will initially respond like a regular IK foot rig.
Yeah.
Then it's up to you.
Yeah.
Then you need to, but also I couldn't have done this without Eduardo's help, and the tool, of course, is what makes it possible, right? So even while I was working on it, I was messaging him like, hey, how do I do this? And so thank you guys for
you guys are awesome.
Cool. Second, the last year of conversation we've had and improving it drastically, and kind of putting up with my feedback on what I'm like, hey, I really want to do this, but like the rigs wouldn't be available without them helping me this week. So it was, more the least I could do to just push some people to look at their stuff. And
yeah, that's good.
I'd love to hear from Eduardo about, your experience animating with the rigs and kind of just any pointers you want to give to people.
So yeah, let's begin with the talk of Richard Lico's, the one from GC 2018. It was like 2 years ago I discovered it and talked to Santiago about it and asked like what could be done to make tools like this, because he was using scripts to like automatize some steps. So basically the idea was to just like start building a tool. Then the idea was, I was working on Maya at the time, but I've been looking at Blender for a while. And at the studio I'm working at in Zaum, they are all using Blender. I was the only one using Maya at the time. And it was like just the right time to start working on it and start to try it out. Then for about a year, we started working on some like simple scripting, like just creating controllers on top of the face carton and things like this. The whole idea was to make it easier for a one-person team to animate a whole game. Like the talk of Richard Lico, he said that he animated the whole what's the name of the game? No, not Quill. It's
Moss.
Yeah, Moss.
Yeah, Moss. That's it. He animated the whole game using this kind of workflow, and like this really inspired us to do something similar. And so after a year, we shared it with the world, and yeah. After that, I've tagged Richard Lico in a tweet announcing the Rig on the Fly tool, and Brad must have seen it this way and started contacting us.
Yeah, Spidey sense. I saw that come out, and I was like, "What's this?" I'm starting to look at Blender, and then when I saw it, I was like, "This is what I was looking for." And then that started the whole spiral down into madness. Really, I think.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, for at the time I released it, I was starting to use it on actual game projects. So if you know about the Disco Elysium, the last few, like all the animations that were added for the final cut, that was the second release, were all made in Blender using this tool. And we didn't have to make all the rigs again, and it didn't affect all the work that was done beforehand.
I just wanted to make I keep forgetting to mute myself, so sorry for the typing in your ear, because I'm running solo today, so I'm handling chat at the same time. I also just wanted to point out, I just pasted a couple links. One of the link is directly to the Rigging Dojo site where these rigs have been prepared. In there, you'll find it's very comprehensive. Brad's got included pretty much all of the things. In there, you will find links to the actual rigs. You'll find a link to the Dipsloom Discord server, so that if you need any support, if you're gonna be brave enough to try this and take this journey with the rig, then you can at least get some support from these guys there, because I'm sure they'll be excited to just hear feedback on everybody using it. That's it would be a very exciting moment, I'm sure, of like sending it out into the wild in a case like this. So please do go check out their website. Their website, I believe you guys all have some examples, I think some samples of like animation done with the tool as well, so you can check that out too.
We have some things, yeah. One of them is free, but it's directly in Unity. So I believe we don't have a blend file, do we? We might have one blend file. Maybe there's the rat that was used for the animation. Oh yeah. So there was an animation jam competition where Eduardo went to, and you won. I actually got first place. Yeah. It was organized by the team.
With the what team? Sorry.
It's was it Animate? Yeah, Anim State.
Anim State,
Yeah.
right? Okay, yeah. Which is the same group that does the NMX, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, the worlds. It's such a small little world. How they all kind of collide. Well, it's I don't know. I'm pretty excited by this. I think that hopefully this is going to satisfy people in on our community, because, like I said, people are just looking for a chance to get their hands on more of these rigs. And so this tool is available. It's there. It's you know, you might need to be able to build one of these yourself. Like, luckily Brad was around and was able to put some time in, because it's not necessarily plug and play to get a rig ready using this tool. This is not really necessarily that. It is, if you have a good clean skeleton and you have it's got some good skin weights on it, then theoretically this is going to be a very straightforward tool for you. But you do need to have some sort of experience with rigs to probably put this together yourself. So that's why Brad had created. Yeah, it helps. It usually does. And so Brad decided that, to help the entry level here, to get access to this, then you can go ahead and grab one of his sample rigs for this challenge. The actual, there's a link also to the tool that I believe is on GitHub, which is also in Brad's link there to the Rigging Dojo. So pretty much head over there. It's going to have all the things. Anything you probably need in order to get yourself going will be right there for you to grab.
I tried to make it a nice, like, go one place and figure it out. But I will say that the, obviously Anim State, there are a lot of Riot people on the Anim State Anim Exchange stuff. So it was nice to, it's another continuous crossover of, like, all levels. It's almost meta. Like, there's so many intersections that just kind of worked out timing wise and for everything. And I saw someone say the rigs have a low proxy mode. They're already pretty light and gamey. Like, they're low poly and they're fast. And the Blender, their rigging is so light that you're not going to really slow down much. I mean, you could chop the mesh up, but I'm getting beyond frame rate that I need, so it should be okay, even on a low computer. And then I will just say that, like, approaching the extra add-on that works really well with this is the Animate add-on, and it lets you basically just repose in the view, and it updates the dense curves, just like you're messing with curves in the graph editor. So if you are afraid of a lot of keyframes, just get the Animate tool and just repose and mess with it in the view, and it'll be really nice, especially if you're working with mocap. It really, like, I wish that existed in Motion Builder and Maya, honestly, because it's so fast to just reposition stuff and fade things in and out that I'm starting to get spoiled on the Blender side with like rig on the fly and animate. It's really hard to go.
It's happening.
Why do I need to be
in
Maya? So
going back to the point, if there was ever a time, it seems like the water is warm enough to start jumping in and trying it out for real. And so hopefully there are many here today that are willing to actually do that, to take that plunge. We have a little bit of time. I don't know if there's some questions in chat that we have all these smart people in one singular place here. If you have some questions for Eduardo, Santiago, or Brad, now would be a good time to do it. Do you guys have any questions out there in chat? It looks like you have a few here. What's this one? Is the rig on the fly add-on similar to the quick rig function in Maya?
Do you want me to take that?
Okay. Whoever wants to take it.
The direct answer is no. The quick rig function in Maya doesn't really work. This works. It doesn't skin for you though. Quick rig in Maya, for anybody that doesn't know, right? It lets you kind of place guides, and it builds a skeleton, and it skins stuff automatically with the voxel skinning, and then it attaches a human IK rig to it. And it's okay. It works in a pinch, and this is a rigging tool and a set of tools that you can apply to any like FBX skeleton. So you don't need to start from scratch. You can just find a really nice model online that's been skinned already to a skeleton, and with few exceptions, just run the tool on it, and you've got a starting point to start animating. So the quick rig is doing a lot of things, and most of them poorly. And this tool in Blender does a lot of things really well. You just have to combine the ingredients, right? It's a lot of really nice organic ingredients from the farmer's market ready to combine into a beautiful animation, and less managing all the overhead and technical debt of like trying to understand Hey and understand like all the blending and everything. You use it to lift the leg and pose the character, and then when you switch it, it bakes everything over and you do your next operation. So you just so not at all. They're very different.
Yeah, and I think that, so just to really touch on it, it would be probably a smart time to also to give a quick another shout out to Richard Lico. He's got he has a training platform called Animation Sherpa. If you're interested in fully leveraging what a tool like this has to offer, because it does require a philosophical shift. I have to stress this. It's not going to be something that is going to feel like your traditional rig, and I think that it's important to possibly prepare yourself and your mind for how to really fully take advantage of something like this. And trust me, this is a rabbit hole that you'll be thankful that you went down, because it will challenge your current way, the way that you think about animating. And I think that's a good thing. I think animators need to often put themselves outside of their comfort zone and challenge their workflows, because your dream workflow is maybe possibly just one experiment away. Yeah. And you need to, if you think too rigidly, it keeps you slow. You might have ways that are just around the corner that could completely revolutionize your speed and quality. And I think that Richard Lico's methodology is a really good example of that. There are people that it's like a religion. They've converted to the Richard Lico way of animating. And and it's weird because it's like you might never be exposed to it. So hopefully this might be a gateway for that. This is the gateway drug to the Richard Lico way of things. So if you do, like, there's some talks out there of Richard Lico you can find on YouTube that will give you at least a high level perspective on the way he thinks. But if you really want to deep dive on it, then I would highly recommend taking a look at his Animation Sherpa site and signing up to his course, because you're going to get access to his tools. You get access to it. There's a rig that he's prepared for that class as well to allow you to test.
And the Blender rig for that class is using Rig on the Fly.
There you go. So like the universe is connected us all yet again. So please do check that out, because I think it'd be a good place for you to possibly help prepare the journey that you're about to take on this with this rig.
Yeah, the crossover is another Blender rigger, Peric, posted a video on space switching after taking Richard's class. So I posted that to the page as well, just so you can have one more example within Blender of just the concept of space switching as Richard teaches it. And then you can grab the Rig on the Fly tools and start applying it and exploring it. And it's really nice to be able to just immediately have access to start animating without trying to learn all of the features of the rig. And then when you get yourself backed into a corner, how do I get back out? Most people just delete over everything and start over when they're stuck.
Totally.
And there's not really getting stuck in this tool.
Yeah.
And I saw a couple questions come through in the chat too.
Yeah, this one, I want to drop this one because I think this was pretty funny considering so this one here, this question about is there an all-in-one tool set like Animbot and Blender? So there's a link right in Brad's, if you go to hit it's hilarious. It's almost like you were reading his mind or he was reading yours. I don't know which one, but go take a look because someone had done a video on exactly this topic. So you might want to go take a look at that for some information.
Yeah, Luch covered is there Animbot and Blender, and he's teaching the Blender iAnimate class. So he's been sharing a lot of great tips. But I will say also the Animbot for Blender users, if you've looked at Animate lately, the latest update has had a huge overhaul in the UI, and now you can just jump in and out of the tool directly in the main window, and you don't even really think about it anymore. You're not stuck in the graph editor, so it's really, really powerful. There was one other Maya rig scaling. So just be warned that these rigs were built in Maya in like meters. Like they're big in Blender as well. I kept the scale. So your clipping planes and the scale of the rigs are big. They're not shrunk down to be tiny, and everything should scale fine. Blender handles this pretty well. Maya had some other issues with, the issues with Maya is that everyone has some configuration that's different, and when you open up a rig that's both giant and facing the opposite direction, suddenly you're going to be really confused. So that's not a knock against the Riot rigs. They're just, those are assets that are available, and you kind of get what you want. But when I brought them to Blender, I cleaned them. So I reoriented the joints, I fixed the planes that the legs were on. I chose better orientations to make the rig on the fly work better. So this is not it's not compatible to go back to Maya with the animation out of here.
Yeah.
The cool thing is, if you have a good Maya skeleton that you're going to animate in Maya and take it to Blender, the rig on the fly tool will still let you animate it and keep it compatible. But you need to rig well in Maya first.
That's it. Yeah, that's the thing. And then it goes right back to my comment about like it would be handy for animators to learn a little bit, and in some
just like
maybe a lot,
just
like Motion Builder. And so that's another shout out for Rigging Dojo, because the rigging, if you're in the market for learning some rigging skills, then they have all kinds of opportunities for you to learn. There's
lots of free stuff too, because we
exactly
gotta support people learning wherever they can. So.
Yeah. Yep. So do check it out. Don't just go over there and grab this link. Go take a look around, snoop around to see what Rigging Dojo has to offer. You've got like free stuff. You've got courses. You've got there's a lot of things there. And like you'll see too, there's also some Motion Builder stuff. So there's a lot of people that often come to me asking about Motion Builder. Where do I get good information? I keep heading them over. Either I say, well, you can take my intro class at iAnimate. And then after that, I would go over to Rigging Dojo, or vice versa. Like either way, there's
like
lots of
free links. I like last month I assembled 3 learning sources for approved. Like, you can start here for free and not be lost into YouTube where you don't know what you're getting. I filtered that stuff for you. So there's learning rigging, learning Python, learning Motion Builder, and
Python.
If I didn't put the Blender stuff up yet, I think it's mainly because I've still been assembling all the stuff on the nonlinear animation tools and just figuring out all the stuff myself, because I'm still a new user to Blender. So it's the fact that like I have so many people coming to me about Blender. It's a little it's great. It's forcing me to learn really fast. So
the other
thing,
you become that guy. You better know.
I was going to ask Eduardo something on the so for rig on the fly. Where do you want the tool to be? Like, what do you have in the works, or where do you see it going, and what do you hope it does?
Oof,
Loaded question now.
Basically, implementing all your suggestions would be the start. A good first step.
That's funny. Yeah. So
there's a backlog.
Yeah.
I've tried to keep them from just like flooding.
There's history here, as you can see. Like there's already been some mention of this, but Brad has been working with Eduardo and company to refine and to improve and to push the envelope on this tool. So there's been a legacy of some back and forth on this. So
me breaking stuff in the China shop, right? Just stomping around going, hey, I tried this.
That'll do it.
They're like, I don't know. Why
did anticipate that? Yeah. Guess maybe we should fix that whole. Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think it's that we will all now benefit from all that back and forth, because that's obviously the thing that needs to happen with any kind of tool, because now animators are professional breakers. That's for sure. If there's one thing I know about animators, and I'm one of them, is we are very, very good at breaking things that you didn't even know could be broken. So if it could be broken, we'll find it and we'll break it. That's for sure. There's another question here that might be, I don't know. This seems pretty specific. Can rig on the fly handle the problem with one frame child of constraint switching in Blender? I'm not a big enough Blender user, so I don't even know what this is even trying to mention.
Actually, I don't know either. But with rig on the fly, since you bake things, like you put constraints and bake them, you shouldn't have these kind of issues.
It's not a problem when you use the rig tools, because it's always switching. You're not trying to manage, I'm in one state for the first 10 frames and now I'm switching. It's you work and then you switch to the new state and everything is now in that mode.
Mm-hmm. So all you have to care about is only the transform, so translate, rotation, and scale. You don't have to animate some sliders or custom tools on the side.
That's right. Live in the now.
Here's a question for you guys. So what's the timeline on this? How long have you been working on this tool?
Well, it's been 2 years.
Wow.
Now. We released it about a year ago.
And yeah, there was a long pause throughout this year, but we're starting back again and trying to implement like the new stuff that Brad was talking about, and hopefully have more like user friendly, like what do you say, like sort of profiles, like preferences. Like if you want to have your rig in a certain state.
Oh, like kind of like a preset?
Yeah.
Yeah, like all presets and things like this. But those things need to be implemented from the start. So we kind of have to rewrite the whole tool.
Oh boy.
But it's going to be
way to go, Brad.
That's okay. Yeah, I know, my fault.
Just when they thought it was done.
What if I ask this? Oh,
yeah.
More stable.
So
what you guys don't know.
1.1, no, 1.0, not quite recently, actually, just about a week or two ago, a month ago. And so we're already thinking about the version 2.0, where we're going to restart from the start, basically from scratch. And so the real focus this time will be on those presets, because the thing is, it takes time to switch from IK, FK for every single feet or for the hands. And so basically having a preset and just switching between those presets will just save you a ton of time. Because instead of pressing 5-6 buttons, it will just be one button and then it's done.
So we're automatizing the automation.
Basically.
Yes, yeah.
Nice. That's very meta. So eventually this will then evolve to Skynet, and then we will be under the very metal hooves of the cyborg army that will soon take over the earth. Okay, good.
They configure themselves any way they want.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so I'm going to wrap things up. It's been actually one last little question here. Oh, okay, so Eddie, I see you posting some stuff about. For one thing you all have to understand is that the Maya rigs for these Riot rigs, they are coming from Riot. So like they are to be used as is. They like if there are issues with scaling, then that's probably something that people just need to deal with. These are not free rigs that Agora made. These are things that Riot are bringing to the table. You're actually working with like production rigs here, which is pretty cool. I'm not fully aware of the limitations of that particular rig, so I don't really want to get into it on this particular stream. But like, so I think the basic advice I have is if you can't scale the rig, maybe scale the set or do whatever you need to do, because the way these rigs have been put together, were done for very specific reasons, and they are probably relatively legacy, because if they're coming from League, then they've probably been around for a little while. So they may not be as modern as rigs that you might be used to. They might have been kicking around the production for a while. So that's all I have to say about that. I mean, maybe we can try to address this on another opportunity, but. I just wanted to thank you, Brad, for obviously everything that you do, being the fountain of knowledge that you are, and being there behind the scenes, always pushing. And like I love having these little spotlights on people like Brad, because Brad there are people like Brad out there that are the ones that are pushing tools like, everything from getting, helping get animation layers into Maya, like things that we've all obviously have benefited from, all the way through to also even just making Motion Builder a more accessible and more understood a piece of software that we relied on in production for many years. So thank you, Brad, for being Brad.
You're
and
welcome.
Thank you, Eduardo and Santiago, for your trailblazing efforts, trying to bring tools to the forefront for people that are willing and wanting to go over and make the plunge into Blender and to jump into a very rich and very vibrant and very exciting community of content creators that is the Blender community. And I think that I'd like to see more of these kind of conduits open, so that you can get more people finally having less excuses to not just jump in and try it. So thank you for being there and being like quite literally one of those conduits. So thank you for all the people who showed up to chat. I'll read you guys out so you can go about your busy days, and I'll wrap up here on the show. Okay. So thanks again, guys, for being here. Thanks for taking the time out of your day.
Yep.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Okay, so there's the big announcement. Another thing like that I'd like to think that also this is a beginning of a beautiful relationship between Rigging Dojo and Agora.Community. I'm sure there's a lot of future collaborations that we can see ourselves doing. Very obviously very like-minded. Brad's philosophy on putting himself out there and just helping the community like get the tools and the information that they need. It's nice when people who have that knowledge. And it's funny how he just ended up in a position like that. There's so many people like him that just found themselves in a production where they're like, who can rig? I know a little bit of rigging. Okay, you do it. That's good. And then it just ended up being, and once you're there, once you see behind the scenes, you start to realize just how all these companies seem to just how somehow barely put this stuff together. Then suddenly it's like a fireman, right? A fireman who gets trained, they are like suddenly experts on seeing all the potential fires everywhere they look. It ends up being like that. And then it sounds like just, like so many firemen, they just Brad rose to the occasion, just like Eduardo and Santiago doing the same thing in Blender. It's like, we need people like that are aware enough to realize that there are holes and they're willing to take the time to try to fill those holes. If sometimes it's information, sometimes it's actually building something, whatever it might be. But thank the Lord that there are people like Brad and Eduardo and Santiago, because we need more of them on a regular basis. So please do take a look at that link. We will be posting this on social media later on today. I wanted to kind of make this a bit exclusive for people who did take the time to come out today. So you are literally the only ones that website that links to Brad's site is quite literally brand new, and it went live minutes before we went on stream. So you'll probably be the first ones there downloading that stuff and taking a look at his the information package that he's put together. So I guess that's about it. By the way, actually, just 1 second. Never mind. Sorry. Yeah. So I will just keep an eye open for that. If you want to share that link, by all means, you can on whatever communities that you might be kicking around on online. Especially if there's anybody that is interested in participating in this month's challenge and wants to use Blender, for instance. These would be obviously perfect targets to get that link to, but I'd like to think that this would transcend even beyond the Anim challenge. The Anim challenge was just a good excuse. That was the whole planet aligning thing that sparked this idea that why don't we just do it? We've been talking about it. Let's just go ahead and then make it happen. So I'd like to think that would be possibly just a maybe regardless of whether you're going to be participating in this month's challenge. Maybe you just wanted to learn Blender and you wanted a good rig to start doing that with. Maybe you're a Richard Lico fan and you're like, oh my God, combining Blender and Richard Lico is like a mind-blowing thing. Like, what does that look like? Well, go ahead and experience it. Let me know. Okay, so that's it for today. I will see you everyone on the next stream, which I believe is next week at some point. Actually, yeah, I do believe it is next week. Let me just take a quick look. I don't know why I always have to do this. I should always be more prepared and have it written down on my desk somewhere, but somehow I always manage not to do that. Yeah, Harvey Newman. I already talked about this. Harvey Newman is a veteran video game animator. He's also a prolific YouTuber. So we'll be having a good chat with him next week. That'll be definitely a lot of fun. So that's it. See you guys later. Have a wonderful weekend to everybody who is about to go get into one. For those on the other side of the world, you might already be on your weekend. It might be Saturday morning for you, potentially. Well, maybe not quite yet, but it's going to be that like that. So depending how early you get up. Yeah, see you around the community. Stay animated. Talk to you soon. Cheers.